I have to admit, I'm feeling a little bit confused at the moment. We've gone from last year where we used to do all face-to-face workshops and I'd be in a little computer lab talking to everybody with them all in front of me, to at the beginning of this year when Linnaeus come up and said, well, we're going to do things a little bit differently, let's do some webinars. So I'm used to sitting in my office or in an empty lecture theatre, sitting here talking to empty chairs. So that has been a bit of a different experience, and if you ever want to try it, it's fun trying to actually gauge how people are going in those webinars. So if you ever come to any of those webinars, please type into the checkbox, let us know that you are actually there. It is a little bit unusual and thing to get used to, but as I said, now I'm back in front of people, so I can actually see how you do. I guess I'm the light relief at the end of the day, whereas all the other speakers have given you a lot to think about, and you're going to have to go back and think about how that applies to your unit. I'm simply just going to show you how to do something in your unit. So you don't have to think about this one. If you're using assignments, this is just going to show you how to actually mark the assignments. And I've got a site here that actually has an assignment set up in it, so we'll just jump straight into it. So this site actually already has the assignment set up in it, so I can go to the Grade Centre and mark it. But what I would suggest, if you haven't heard of smart vUWS yet, if you've got large cohorts or you've got more than one tute group, you can actually set up a smart view for each tute group. And you can see in this one here, I don't have a little pointer to point at it with you, but down the bottom here, when I expand the Grade Centre, rather than having just the full Grade Centre, an assignments is normally there, and that's basically a smart view that's set up by default. But you can set up all your other ones here. So you can see I've got tute 101, tute 202, so that could be Fred's tute group, Sue's tute group, or if they've got more than one tute group, Fred's first tute group, Fred's second tute group, etc. So then when I go to it, if I actually look at the full Grade Centre in here, and this site doesn't have a lot, I think it's only got about 10 students in it because it's only a dummy site. If you've got a large cohort, you would know sometimes that can take quite a long time to load. So that can take quite a long time to load. So you can set up these smart views, and then you're only looking at the particular group that you want to work with. So in this case, I've only got 3 students in this group here. So it will load a lot quicker. Once you've set up smart group views or the whole Grade Centre, if you tick this one at the top, it'll actually show you down the bottom here that I've got 3 rows. So it's actually telling me there's 3 people in this smart view. So if you ever want to know how many people are in a particular view of the Grade Centre, that's one of the quickest ways to actually do it, is to actually just tick the top and select the lot. As I said, those smart views can be set up on lots of things. They can be set up on groups, tute groups, people who are scored less than or more than. There's quite a few different things on setting up those smart views, so if you haven't had a look at them, I would suggest you go and have a look at them. We don't have time to go through them today. So presuming I want to mark this assignment, and the 2 biggest issues with assignments that we get feedback on is how do I download them all and how do I upload them all? Thankfully, you can download all the assignment submissions at once, but you can't upload them all at once. You've got to upload them back one at a time, so that can cause you a bit of an issue. But if I want to download them all at once, so this is my assignment column here, and just one thing I'll mention while I'm in that area is when you're in the Grade Centre, it can only show up to, off the top of my head, I think it's 12 characters, so you can see there I've got assessment 1. So you want to be careful that the accessible tools that automatically create columns don't have really long names that are similar. So if I had assessment 1 part 1 and assessment 1 part 2, I wouldn't be able to see that here. All I can see is assessment 1. If I actually move over it, you'll see up the top there, it actually tells me the full name up there, but it's not ideal. If you can keep your column name short enough that you can actually read it here, so if you've got tutors, etc., that are coming in here that aren't quite as familiar, it is fairly obvious from the column what they want to do, which column they're in. So if I want to download them all, I can come to this contextual menu up the top here and then just go assignment file download. And that will download all the files that have been submitted, which if you've got a really small cohort, it's not such a bad thing. But I've actually got a screenshot. I'm not going to do that because it'll take a bit of time, which is my one. So this one here is actually a screenshot of downloaded files from this site. Now, there's only 5 students in this site, and you can see there's actually 8 files there plus a zip file. So there's only been 4 submissions, so there's 2 for every one that gets submitted. So there's the first one is a text file, the next one down is what they've submitted, their Word or PDF document, etc. So the first one, the text file, just has, when they submit the assignment, they've got those 2 text boxes they can type into. that is a text file that will contain whatever's they've typed into those boxes. And in some cases that may be nothing. But the second one would be the actual PDF, Word document, Excel file, whatever it is they've submitted, which is all right if you've got a small cohort. You could download them all at once like this and be able to manage that. If you've got a cohort of, say, 700 students, when you download that, that's going to be 1,400 files if they only submit one file each. If they all submit 2 files each, then you're going to have 2,100 files to go through. So it can get a bit hard to work through, and really the only way to tell is this bit that I've got circled. You'll see they're actually called MSD 678. That's what because these are dummy students, that's actually student IDs. So you can tell them apart. If you had the luxury of having an admin person who could download them all for you and then separate them into each group, that might work. But for a lot of you, I guess that's not going to work. So what I would actually suggest may be a better way to go is when you actually come to it and you go to grade attempts. So that will, the other thing I'll mention too is when you're in a smart view, even though I'm only in a smart view and I'm only seeing my 20, 30 students, whatever it is, when you download the files, it doesn't download just that smart view, it downloads everybody's. So unfortunately that smart views doesn't quite fix that part up. All right, so here I am in the first person in this smart views, and you see here is this person's submission. So I could go through, if I wanted to download them so I could, use track changes or add comments, etc., I could click on that and that would download that file. I could save that. I won't save it for now, but then I could then go save and next, go to the next person, and there's their file, save and next. So you go through your tute group and get just your tute group's files. We're not going to go through that part. I'm just going to go through actually marking it online. So if I wanted to mark this person, so and this one's actually already marked, I might go to the next one. I don't think it's marked yet. All right, so this one here isn't marked. So I could actually bring up their file and open it. And it's up to you. As I said, some people want to actually have that file saved so they can use the comments and track changes, etc. Some people are saying, well, I've got all that sort of stuff built into my rubric and I can do it through that. What are you doing here? I don't want to do anything. So here's my little dummy file that Mark Harmon's submitted for his assignment. So I can have that up there showing what he's submitted. If I'd done the save beforehand, I could just open that up and I could be doing the track changes, comments, etc. as I've got it. With this assignment, I've also got a rubric attached. So if I open up that rubric, I can have them side by side. Now I can't see my Word document. So I've got my 2 files side by side. I could be going through in here and putting in my little add comment there. Yeah, I like NCIS, I watch it every week, great show, yada, 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 whatever you want to put. And saving that back ready to upload at the end. But the beauty of these rubrics, and I'll just quickly mention a little bit about rubrics if you haven't already seen them or created them. As you can see here with this one, it's actually got it's got several criteria. They're listed down this way. And then it's got 5 levels within each criteria. You can add and delete, so you can have as many criteria as you like and as many levels within each criteria as you like. You don't have to have 5, you could have 2, you could have 20 if you wanted to. But once they're there, it's very easy for the tutors to use. They don't need to add up any marks, it adds them all up for them. This one I've got here showing doesn't have any marks attached, but you can have percentages, points ranges, or points. As well as your feedback. So the feedback is actually built into them. So if I was going through this one and for Mark's interpretation of the assessment and introduction, I might say, well, he had a very good introduction. You can see it actually puts the tick there and it opens up a feed box. So I put the feedback in straight away. The sort of feedback we all don't want to do. So yes, obviously you would type something a bit more meaningful than that, but you could put in quite a bit more information on that. So you just work your way down the rubric, clicking on the ones that you want. If I had points allocated, it would be adding it up as I go. I don't need to sit there and work out what the points are. It'll automatically do all that for me. So I'll just go through and finish this one off. Yeah? You can, yes. You can set up a rubric with a points range. So you could have one that at one level I'll get 0 to 5, the next level I'll get 6 to 10, the next I'll get 11 to 15, so on, and then you would get a drop down there and you'll get to choose what within that range you want to give them. Yeah, so I said this one's got no points, but you can have points range, points or percentages. And as I said, you can have as many criterion level within those as you want. So, in this case I've got 5, you could have 10 if you thought that was necessary. You've also got the overall feedback here, so you could type in there, you really need to address this area, or you didn't really address this area, whatever you need to put as the overall feedback. I'll just put something in there because I'm going to show you how a student would see it. And then save. And if I was using this as an open Word document and doing the track changes, etc., I would save that as well and then close that. Now, if it was if this rubric had points attached to it, it would already be in that box. It would come up when I saved it to say, do you want to use the marks from the rubric for the grade? You'd say yes, and it would put the marks in there. Because this one is one that's set up to not have marks, I would have to type in what I thought they were worth. Then you have these other options here. Feedback to user. If I was using a rubric, I wouldn't put it in there because then you've got too many different spots you're looking at for feedback. You've got the spot in the rubric to put it, so it's all in the one place. The other grading notes down here, the students don't see, only the lecturers do, so that might be something, if it's a late submission, you could put in there 10 points were deducted for late submission, so you've got that record of that. Having done all that, now, if you actually save those files first using the track changes, etc., you would then use this part here to browse your computer to find that file and attach it, so they would get that copy of that file with the markup in it as well. So then, having done that, you would just save the next and continue on to the next person. As I said, it's up to you which way, whether you want to download those files first or work with it online. If you can't work with it online, maybe you're better off on campus where you've got a good connection. But that's basically it. And then I'll just log out and I'll show you as a student how they will actually see that rubric. So we're at step 7. So this is that student that we were just marking. If they go and have a look at their My Grades, presumably you've released this column to students. In this case I have. You can see you've got their mark there in the view rubric. So I can go either way. I can click on the mark and it will take me in and do that. And now I can see the attached files, that if I've attached a file back to them. If they click on the view rubric, they get the static version of it, which clearly shows them which level they were given within each criteria. They can see the feedback that I've typed in each one. And they should also see the feedback that I've typed in down the bottom. This is obviously not the one I was just typing in, it's one of the other students, but the same effect. If students wanted a copy of that, then they would have to right-click and print from there. There's not an actual print function on it, but they can just use that right-click and print. That's pretty much assignment submissions. No. No. No, you would give them a date that it's all available. Yeah. One way or another, you'd have to advise them it's available. That's the other thing you need to think of too, is how you're marking. Do you want the students to be able to see them as they're marked? If you're marking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would probably hide the column until they've all been marked, then show the column, and then send out an email or an announcement to say your grades are now available through your My Grades. You would need to have the My Grades tool there on the menu somewhere as well. No, I don't think so, no. Yeah. Well, I guess the other thing with rubrics too is you can choose whether the students can see it like when they first open up the assignment before they even start it, or whether they don't see it till the end, or whether they don't see it at all. So it's up to you how you want the students to see the rubric. There's about 3 or 4 options, either not at all, straight away, or after the marking.
Tom, when you download the files,
yep.
What names does it give the files?
It gives it the assignment basically. If I bring back this PowerPoint. So you can see there it actually calls it Assessment 1. Yeah, I'll read it out. I'll just read out what it says. So it actually says, Assessment 1 Research Exercise, View Submission Point. So that's the actual name of the assignment. Yeah. Then it's got MSD 6, which is this student's student ID, and then the attempt and the date and time.
Right, so this is the student number.
Yeah, so the only way identifier is the student number that it puts in there. So you need to match that back to the name. And that's the other reason I actually prefer to do it when you go through and mark them and then go save and next, because when you save it, you can choose what to call it. So you can actually put the student's name in because you've got that in front of you in the submission anyway. But yeah, so it would be a lot easier to identify rather than the number. No, that was something you would have to analyse yourself through the rubric.
I might just make a comment there that where universities are looking at implementing learning analytics for Blackboard, so there is quite a large project that's happening jointly between the Learning and Teaching Unit and ITS. We've got the metrics being run, so the data is being captured, but we don't actually have the infrastructure in place and the reporting in place. So that's something that we're working on. It's a two-phased approach. The first phase is actually to release that sort of student metric data to students so that they can monitor their own sort of progress, and then we're going to be working with the academic community to set up the various reports, so that the cuts that you want to look at, what sort of data are you interested in, and how do you get that information. So that's the second phase of the learning analytics project. But certainly really understanding how students engage in the learning management system, because that doesn't tell you the whole sort of student experience, because you're missing any other interactions that they might have, say on Facebook, on Twitter, or in the library, or even on email. So it just gives you that view, so that Blackboard experience. But that's something that when we have more information about that, we'll be communicating that. But very much you'll be involved in feeding into what sort of data is meaningful for you in your school.
Do you have or are you planning to collect any data on things like how the rubric, how widely things like rubrics are being used across vUWS and what the potential is?
We already know the numbers of rubrics being used.
Have estimation already?
We do.